there, Amy here. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today we're going to be making some projects with the Xtool F1. So you might have remembered some of my past videos with the M1, which was a big cutting machine, but this is a nice small desktop portable engraving and cutting machine. So Xtool sent this to me, so I was super excited to get it and try it out, and I've been having so much fun with it. So today, this video, we're going to concentrate on engraving some stainless steel and some metal, and then more videos will be coming of making some other stuff. So first off, this is the machine right here, the Xtool F1. So you can see it's, it has weight to it, but definitely can take it anywhere with you. So it's perfect if you are doing like craft shows or fairs or things like that and want to do stuff on site. You can take it with you and personalize things right when you're there. It's super fast. It has a infrared laser and also a diode laser. So you have the options of cutting both wood and engraving on metal and wood and cardstock and leather and all sorts of things. So one thing you'll notice about this one versus like the big M1 is obviously it has a smaller area that you're working with. So it has this protective shield that goes up and down, and then down here you have this small area. So perfect for jewelry, smaller things, making ornaments, things like that. There is an extender that you can get with it. I don't have that, but that is helpful to make bigger things if you want to cut out longer wood signs or batch things, things like that. So it's also recommended to get an air purifier with this. So, you don't breathe all of those nasty chemicals and stuff like that in it, especially if you're sensitive to it and don't have like a window nearby. So if you are taking it places, you definitely probably want to get an air purifier. It just connects with the hose. There's another hose if you want to have it go out a window or things like that. So super easy. Comes with this nice user manual, super easy to set up. It's only like 3 pages of the parts that you have to set up. Not a lot to it to get in it and start using it. And then also with this, you still use the Xtool Creative Space software. So we're going to get into that today. I'm going to show you a few things on how to design some stuff. And then we're going to use the machine. So today we are going to make this fun flask here. So these are an engraved flask, and I will link all these below on what I have. I just got these off Amazon. So the one thing with these machines is that you are going to have to test the materials that you have, because, depending on the flask, the company of the flask, how it's made, higher end, lower end, the settings are going to be a little bit different. So Xtool has a whole list on their website of settings that they recommend as a starting point. So you can do some test arrays on your things and see how that goes. So on this, you can even tell, because I knew this was the one that I was practicing on, I did a few test runs on that backside, so you can see I use different settings, because there's a power setting, then a speed, and then a line centimeter there. So again, but once you kind of dial in your settings on the stuff that you're using, then make sure you write it down, or you can save it within Creative Space, and I will show you how to do that. But we're just gonna engrave a whole bunch of fun jewelry here, like this cute little dog tag here, and all of these necklaces. Most of them actually came with kind of in the starter packet with the Xtool. So these are mostly Xtool products and they work really great. This one here actually is just like a stamp one that I got probably from a local craft fair, and you can see that it engraves, but it engraves not as dark as the other ones. So with this, you can use like one of those ink pads or a Sharpie or something if you want to kind of color over it. You just have to play with it and see how that goes. Also did some of the metal business cards, and you can see in the different colors how those come out. Was this stainless steel flask that I tried to do first, and you can see that you can kind of see the engraving on it. But the one thing that you can do with this machine on the stainless steel is get colors in it. So you can see I started doing it over at a different speed, and there's a couple different colors as I went through it. This just was taking a really long time, so I had to stop it. But I'm not dialed into the colors and things like that. That takes not really great for a newbie to be doing that. So that's something that it can do once you figure some things out, but you have to play with settings a lot in that. So just wanted to show you, this was just a basic flask that I got, but the black ones, the coated, things like that work really well. Okay, so let's get into Creative Space and we will start designing our flask. Okay, so we're going to get into Xtool Creative Space here. So I'm just going to open this up on my computer. So when you open it up, it looks like this. I'm just going to delete those off. The Creative Space has come a long way in designing stuff. So, okay, so for my images, I love going to Creative Fabrica. And I have a yearly subscription to this. So this is where I get most of my stuff. And if you want some 9 free credits down below that you can try it out for yourself if you want and see if you like it and see if you want to dive into subscriptions. So up here, I'm going to actually do Candy Monogram. We're going to do this Happy Camper one right here. I'm going to click on it. And you'll see since I had the subscription, I don't have to pay for anything. Everything is included in it. So I'm going to download that. I'm just going to extract it here. And we get all the separate ones. So I'm going to click back on my Creative Space, and then I'm going to go back in there and click on my Happy Camping Monogram, click on it again, and then I'm going to bring in this SVG, which for mine it says the Microsoft Edge because that's just the computer I'm on. So I'm going to click on this and click on Open It. And I'm going to, yes, scale it to fit my canvas. Okay, so when it comes in, this is what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to actually scale it down here. And you can see when I try to move it, it wants to snap to the center, which I want because I want it right in the center. So what I'm going to do here is actually I'm going to add a name to it too. So I'm going to click on text over here. And then this is where the text box comes up. And over on this side here, on the right side here is actually where you change the text. So right on the text there, I'm actually going to I'm going to write in Andrew. And then you can change, we're going to change the font here. Let's see what we want. So the first ones you get are all just the ones that come with Creative Space. So I'm just going to leave it at Lato. And then I'm going to decrease the size of this and move it down here. Let's see where it's centered. And then I'm just going to use my arrow keys to move it up since it's wanting to snap until I get it. Let's see, maybe go down one. Okay. So now that I have this, you can see that actually within this SVG, if I hover over things, things are separate. So they're not all attached right now. So I did that the first time I did this. I didn't realize that, and it only actually engraved this surround there. So we want to do it all at one time. So I'm going to use my cursor and drag it over all of it, and we are going to combine it, and then I'm just going to click on Unite. And so that actually makes it all into one image. So you can see now if I hover over it, it turns all blue because it's all one. So that's how I want it. So now we actually need to change it over here into our engrave settings. So over here is your processing type. You can do the score, the engrave, or the cut. So I'm going to turn it to engrave, and you'll see that it fills everything in. And then, actually before that, you have this user-defined material if you want to put
to put one in. I'm going to change the focus manually with it, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay, so then I'm going to actually change the size of this. Oh, mine's in millimeters right now. I'm going to come up and actually change my settings. We just click on that settings, you can go to inches. Okay, so it's 2.7 by 2.6. Okay, so I'm probably actually going to keep it that size. The one thing with the flask is since it's kind of rounded and I'm putting it on a flat bottom, when the laser comes over to these sides here, the depth of where it's trying to hit is farther away, and so sometimes it doesn't quite engrave on those edges as well. So you just have to be mindful of that when you're going to size things. If this was just a flat like wood piece or something like that, then I wouldn't have to worry about the size. But when things that are rounded on the edges, we need to be mindful of how far over that's going to go. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there, and then over in my settings, we have it on engrave. I am going to change my power, and this is just what I found works for my machine and the flask that I'm using. I'm going to do 60 on power, and then the speed, which is millimeters per second, I'm going to do 550, and then my lines per centimeter, I'm going to bump those up to 260, which just shows how many lines are going to make. When it's a lower amount, you can see the lines in between it, and I don't really want to see the lines on the flask. Okay, so we have our power of 60, our speed of 550, our pass of 1, and the lines, and then I also want to change this to infrared light. The blue light is more for when you cut wood, things like that. The infrared is more the engraving, metals, and things like that. And Xtool on its site has a whole list of different settings so that it already knows, and it kind of will tell you infrared or blue light. And there's also some Facebook groups that have additional settings and stuff that are great to check out when you're first starting or when you have any questions. So then I'm actually going to save this. Click on that, and we can say like black flask setting and save it. So then when you come into setting, I already saved it, but you can just click on that black flask setting and it has everything already there for you. So if there is a part on here that you didn't want to engrave or cut, you can always ignore it. So up here under vector, it says output or ignore. So this, I didn't figure this one out for a while, but like hide in Cricut Design Space, if you use it, there's quite a few things that I kept wanting to hide and I couldn't figure out how to do it. So if you click on ignore, this won't show up when you go to cut it. Okay, so let's get to the framing step.
Okay, so I have my F1 set up here, and you can see that it just has this shield that goes up and down. And then on the back side, on this side, it actually has to hook up to a computer. I always have my computer on the other side, so I wish there was one on either side, but it's on the side for here. And then this is what hooks into the air purifier, which I have over there, just the vent there, and then the on and off, the power source down here, and then there's a cord that also hooks into the air purifier so that it can talk to itself and know when it's going. It actually will go on when the F1 starts and then go off a few seconds after. So it's pretty cool that it talks to each other. So I'm going to turn this back around so we can see it. So then on here on the side, this is actually kind of the go button. So once it's framed and ready to go, I'll hit start on my computer and then start here. And then this button down below it is actually another framing button that you can push it and it will frame, which I'll show you what I'm talking about. My black flask down on the bottom of this, and you can see hopefully that there's two lights there. One's blue and one's red. And what we need to do with this focusing knob is make sure that the red light is on top of the blue light. So that measures the focus and make sure that it knows where to engrave. So I'm just going to turn it here, And then you'll see that red is going towards that blue. And right there, it is right on top of it. So if you can see that, that's when they're apart. And then you just turn it, and so that they line right on top of each other. Now we just need to line it up on the surface here. So the cool thing about Xtool is it has this framing, so you can click on it and you'll see this blue, hopefully with the camera you can see that, you'll see this blue rectangle that actually comes up. So I'm going to line it up to center it. The other option, I can push on stop, and if I hit on the gear icon, it can do the outline, and this actually outlines what it's going to engrave. So if I click framing again, you can see it kind of beeps up of what it's actually going to engrave, the outline of it. Okay, so I'm going to stop framing that. I'm going to go back to the rectangle and do the framing. And I've actually made some lines on mine. Okay, so I think that I like that. So you can see that square that comes there, so I have it centered exactly where I want that laser to go. You can get things called jigs or make your own if you have a 3D printer or a bigger cutting machine that helps you get it exactly. So if you're doing a whole bunch of these, it's kind of a pain to line it up every single time, but you can get a jig that actually sits right on top of it and you just place it in, so you can just batch things really quickly. Okay, so I'm going to drop down my cover. I'm going to stop framing here, and then on my computer here I'm going to click start. You'll see it brings up this screen and it shows me everything that it's going to engrave. So as I mentioned before, I didn't attach everything and it was missing things and I didn't even notice it. So just make sure you have everything. And then up on your corner you're going to have start, and then this is going to start beeping blue. And then to start the engraving process, we're just going to push that and it's going to go. And you can see the clock on here count up of how long it's actually taking. Okay, so you'll see it beeps when it's done and says it's complete. So it says it did it in 2 minutes and 36 seconds. So you'll hear that the air purifier went off just a few seconds later, so it knew it was done. So we're just going to lift it up. And there we have it. Look how pretty and cool that is. So there we have a flask. So like I said, if you wanted to make a whole bunch of these, they take 2.5 minutes each to make. And then, so I did want to show you, this is the one I did first and it was a little bit bigger, and you can see how over on those edges it didn't go all the way over because it started rounding off and the laser was focused just on the middle here to go up, but still pretty good. But so I just made it a little bit smaller to account for that. So have that. Okay, so now we're going to do a few pieces of jewelry. So it's all done. I'm just going to click OK. So this one's all done, and then if you want to save it, you just go up into your file and click save, save as, and we're going to do flask camping, Andrew, and that will save onto my computer. The one thing is if you're switching computers, it doesn't have like a cloud or something to store it and open it up. So just be mindful of that. If you're making it on one computer, you're not gonna be able to pull it up on another one as of yet. So, and then let's open a new one here. I'm just gonna go to new. Okay, so we're gonna engrave on this little heart here. I'm gonna enter text boxes separately. So let's go always. On my one more heart. Okay, so then I can make them closer and change the fonts and stuff if I want to do that. So let's go to dancing script, engrave, dancing script, and dancing script. So you can see it here if we don't weld these together, that when it engraves, it might kind of engrave a little bit weird. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to click on weld, and that just welds everything together. I'm going to do it on this one, and then click on this and click on this one again. Okay, so let's kind of I'm going to group these ones, those bottom ones together, hold my shift, and then click on the top one, and then I'm going to align and center them horizontally. Okay, so I like that right there. So now I want it exactly like it is here. So I'm going to go to combine and unite. Okay, so it turns it into that one image. And then now I need to make this small enough. I'm going to measure my heart here. It's widest point by about 3/4 down. So right now the width is 0.7, so that's less than an inch, which is good, and 0.75, maybe I'll make it just a little bit smaller. I'm gonna try to snap it right in that middle there. Okay, so for this one, since it's actually an Xtool heart that they gave me, I'm gonna go into the user defined and click on heart shape. You can see here, heart shape stainless steel. And what that does is when I click on it and go into my engrave settings, it has the settings that it recommends for that. So the 100 power, 50 speed. Okay, so we're gonna do it on that. And again, we're gonna go and focus it by adjusting that wheel over here. So those two lines are right on top of each other. And then I'm gonna hit the framing and we'll see how. So I'm gonna move this up a little bit and to the side. So I have the square where I want it in there. So I'm gonna lower this. I'm gonna click on my start button again. My start up here, and then I'm going to push that blue button on the side. Okay, so it blinked. So there we go. She came out great. She came out really nice and dark that you can see. It's not the easiest to see on my camera. Really nice. So super easy and quick way to make jewelry. You could do at a show or just at home for friends, things that you want to sell, really anything like that. Okay, so I hope that helped you getting started with starting to engrave stuff with the F1, and I hope you have fun. Happy crafting!